Meet Mr. Thomas, a 67-year-old retired teacher who has always loved staying active. For years, he enjoyed daily walks in his neighborhood park and weekend gardening with his wife, Mary. But over the past several months, Thomas began noticing a nagging stiffness in his knees and fingers that gradually grew into persistent pain. At first, he brushed it off as part of getting older, something inevitable that everyone faces. Yet the discomfort slowly crept into his daily life, making simple tasks like buttoning his shirt or climbing stairs a struggle. One chilly morning, Thomas woke up to find his joints swollen and aching so badly that even standing felt like a challenge. The sharp pangs shocked him deeply. He had never imagined feeling so limited by his own body. Concerned, Mary urged him to see a doctor, and after several tests, Thomas received the diagnosis: arthritis. The words hit him like a wave of sadness and confusion. What did this mean for his future? Would he lose his independence? The uncertainty weighed heavily on his heart, and he found himself caught between fear and frustration. Instead of giving in to despair, Thomas decided this diagnosis would be the turning point of his life. He was determined not to let arthritis dictate his days or steal his joy. Slowly, he began to explore how his lifestyle might be affecting his condition. He learned that certain foods he had long enjoyed might actually be fueling the inflammation in his joints, making the pain worse. This realization was both unsettling and empowering. He realized that healing wasn't just about medications or doctor visits. It was something he could influence from within, starting with what he put on his plate. Thomas started paying closer attention to his daily meals, curious about how they might help or harm his joints. It was surprising to discover that some of his favorite snacks and quick meals were among the worst offenders. He remembered the fries and fried chicken he often grabbed for convenience, the sugary sodas he drank without thinking, and the processed meats that filled his freezer. These foods, once innocent pleasures, were now clear culprits behind his discomfort. His mindset began to shift from helplessness to proactive care. Alongside changing his diet, Thomas embraced small lifestyle adjustments. He found joy in cooking simple, wholesome meals with fresh ingredients, savoring the process as much as the food. His walks became more intentional, focusing on gentle stretches that kept his joints moving without strain. He also connected with others facing similar challenges, sharing stories and tips that inspired him to keep going. These changes did not happen overnight, but each step brought noticeable relief and a renewed sense of hope. As Thomas' story unfolds in this video, we'll walk alongside him through the ups and downs of managing arthritis naturally. We'll explore the hidden ways everyday foods can worsen joint pain and inflammation, and reveal practical, easy-to-apply changes that help Thomas regain mobility and reduce discomfort. This is not just a list of forbidden foods, but a heartfelt journey toward reclaiming life's simple pleasures. By the end, you'll see how small shifts can lead to big improvements, empowering you or someone you love to live better despite arthritis. So let's begin by understanding the silent enemies on Thomas' plate, the 10 worst foods for arthritis that might be making your pain worse without you even knowing it. Just like Thomas, you have the power to choose healing foods that protect your joints and help you move with ease again. Together, we'll discover how to support your body's natural ability to fight inflammation and regain strength. Your journey to better joint health starts here. Thomas had always taken pride in his independence and his simple routines. For most of his life, food was comfort and convenience, a way to enjoy moments with Mary or grab a quick bite between his hobbies. But after his arthritis diagnosis, Thomas began to wonder if some of those everyday habits had quietly been feeding the pain that now clouded his days. The idea that his beloved meals might be working against him was unsettling, yet also strangely motivating. He wanted to understand what was happening inside his body and how the foods he loved might be part of the problem. One afternoon, Thomas sat with Dr. Nguyen, a warm and patient physician who specialized in geriatric care. With a gentle voice, she explained that arthritis wasn't just about wear and tear, it was also about inflammation, a kind of fire inside the joints that made movement painful and stiff. Many people don't realize, she said, that what you eat can either fan those flames or help put them out. Thomas listened closely, picturing his joints as tiny battlefields where every meal was either a weapon or a shield. Dr. Nguyen didn't demand an overnight transformation, but suggested that Thomas start by noticing his current diet. She gently asked him to keep a simple journal of what he ate and how his joints felt afterward. Sometimes, she smiled, your body already knows what doesn't agree with it. You just have to pay attention. Thomas left the clinic feeling a mixture of hope and apprehension. He realized that reclaiming his health would require more than pills. It meant taking a hard look at the habits he had long taken for granted. Back home, Thomas unfolded his notebook and began to jot down his meals. Breakfast was usually toast with butter and coffee. Lunch might be a sandwich from the deli or a quick fried chicken from the local shop. Dinner was often a hearty plate of meat, potatoes, and vegetables, sometimes with a soda on the side. As the days passed, Thomas also noticed a pattern. The mornings after he ate fried foods or drank sugary sodas, his knees felt stiffer and the ache in his fingers was sharper. On days when he opted for simpler, home-cooked meals, the pain seemed to ease just enough to remind him of how good it felt to move freely. One evening, while flipping through an old cookbook, Mary gently pointed out, "You know, Thomas, maybe we could try cooking a bit differently. I read that some oils and frying can make inflammation worse." Thomas wasn't eager to give up his favorite fried chicken, but he also didn't want the pain to win. Together, they started experimenting with baking instead of frying, choosing olive oil over vegetable oil, and adding more fresh vegetables to their plates. The changes were small but hopeful. Thomas's journey into better joint health was just beginning, but already he felt empowered. He understood that the foods he ate weren't just fuel, they were messages to his body. Each choice could either nourish or harm. The thought that a simple meal might secretly be making his arthritis worse gave him a new sense of urgency to learn and change. With Mary's support and Dr. Nguyen's guidance, Thomas was ready to uncover the hidden enemies on his plate and find the natural allies that could help him regain comfort and strength in his joints. After several days of carefully noting down his meals and the joint pain that followed, Thomas began to notice a troubling pattern. The foods he had always considered normal, even comfort foods, were quietly becoming the enemies of his joints. Sitting by the window one peaceful morning, he reflected on the mornings when his fingers were so stiff he could barely hold his coffee cup, and a heavy feeling settled in his knees. A pang of sadness touched him, but beneath it lay a growing resolve to understand this hidden battle happening inside his body. Mary, his devoted wife, had been a steady source of encouragement. "Thomas," she said one evening as they shared dinner, "I read that fried foods and certain oils can actually make joint pain worse. Maybe we can try some new ways of cooking?" Thomas smiled weakly. He wasn't ready to give up his favorite fried chicken, but he understood that loving himself meant making some tough choices. Together, they began experimenting, baking instead of frying, swapping out regular cooking oils for olive oil, and adding fresh vegetables to their meals. Thomas's story was far from unique. Like many seniors, he had grown up in an era where convenience often meant fried or processed foods, and the connection between diet and inflammation wasn't widely discussed. What surprised him was learning about trans fats and refined oils that lurked in many of the foods he regularly enjoyed. These ingredients weren't just bad for his heart, they also stoked the flames of inflammation within his joints. Every bite of fried potatoes, every sip of sugary soda, every processed snack was silently intensifying his arthritis pain. One afternoon, Thomas listened intently to a podcast where a doctor explained the dangers of a chemical called acrylamide. This compound forms when starchy foods like potato chips and fries are cooked at high heat, a process common in frying. Hearing that his beloved snacks were creating this hidden toxin inside his body was unsettling. Could something so delicious be so harmful? He wondered aloud. Mary reached across the table and squeezed his hand reassuringly. We can find better options, she promised. Thomas began to notice a pattern with his symptoms. On days when he indulged in sugary treats or processed meats, his joints would swell and ache more intensely. One evening, after eating a large slice of cake heavy with refined sugar, Thomas struggled to close his fingers around his favorite book. The stiffness made the pages feel distant and unreachable, and a sense of frustration settled deep in his chest. It was then he truly understood that food was not merely nourishment. It was a powerful signal to his body. Every choice carried consequences. Through his research and discussions with Dr. Nguyen, Thomas came to understand that foods made from white flour, like breads, pasta, and many baked goods, were also offenders. These refined carbohydrates caused rapid spikes in blood sugar, which in turn triggered inflammatory responses in the body. The rapid shifts in glucose created a cycle that worsened joint pain and stiffness. This explained why he often felt worse after eating a sandwich made with white bread or a bowl of pasta at his favorite restaurant. Red meats, once a staple in Thomas's diet, were another surprising culprit. Though rich in protein, the saturated fats and preservatives in processed meats, such as bacon and sausages, could elevate inflammation and accelerate joint damage. Thomas remembered the family barbecues where sausages and steaks were centerpieces, and a bittersweet feeling washed over him. He realized that these memories, while precious, might also be tied to the pain he now endured. Yet amid these revelations, Thomas found hope. He recalled the first time he switched from vegetable oil to extra virgin olive oil, a small change that brought a big difference. The olive oil, rich in anti-inflammatory properties, seemed to soothe his joints over time. Coupled with incorporating more leafy greens and nuts into his meals, he slowly began to feel a lightness in movement that he hadn't felt in months. Perhaps the most difficult change was cutting out sugary drinks. The soda he once sipped without thought was replaced by water and herbal teas brewed by Mary. He noticed that when he avoided sugar-laden beverages, the fatigue that often dragged him down lifted, and his joint pain eased slightly. This shift was more than physical. It lifted his spirits, giving him a renewed sense of control. Thomas also found comfort in connecting with others facing similar challenges. Sharing stories and tips with friends who understood the daily struggle of arthritis made him feel less alone. Their collective wisdom taught him that while arthritis might never fully disappear, it could be managed. By paying attention, making thoughtful choices, and nurturing his body, he could still enjoy an active, fulfilling life. His journey had begun with a diagnosis that once felt like a sentence. Now, it was transforming into a story of empowerment, self-discovery, and hope. Each meal became a chance to heal, each day an opportunity to regain strength. And although the road ahead was long, Thomas faced it with quiet determination and the loving support of Mary and his medical team. As Thomas continues to learn and adapt, he discovers more hidden dangers in everyday foods and the simple swaps that help him reclaim his life. The story of his battle with inflammation is one of gradual awakening and steady progress, a testament to the power of small changes that lead to big results. In the next chapters, we'll explore those discoveries with him, step by step, bite by bite. The morning light filtered softly through the curtains as Thomas prepared breakfast, a simple meal he once would have made without much thought. But now, each ingredient felt significant, each choice a small act of self-care. One thought lingered heavily in his mind. Fried foods, those golden, crispy delights he'd long enjoyed, seemed to be the fiercest adversary to his aching joints. It wasn't just a suspicion anymore. It was a realization, grounded in the sharp contrast between days he ate fried snacks and the days he avoided them. Before his diagnosis, Thomas had never connected his love for fried chicken and fries with the pain that had been creeping into his life. Fried foods were comfort, convenience, and a familiar flavor that reminded him of family dinners and simpler times. But as the inflammation in his joints worsened, those memories took on a bittersweet tint. Thomas began to notice that after indulging in these crispy treats, the stiffness in his knees tightened and the dull ache in his fingers flared into sharp discomfort. One afternoon during a routine checkup, Dr. Nguyen gently explained why fried foods were so harmful to someone with arthritis. "The problem isn't just the fat," she said with a knowing smile. "It's the type of fat and the chemical changes that happen when foods are cooked at high temperatures." She described how frying creates trans fats and harmful compounds that directly trigger the body's inflammatory responses. Thomas listened closely as she explained that the very foods that tasted so good were secretly feeding the fire inside his joints. This explanation resonated deeply with Thomas. He remembered his childhood when fried foods were an occasional treat, not a daily habit. But over the years, fried foods had slipped into his regular diet, often chosen for convenience during busy days. Now, he understood that this habit was contributing to the relentless cycle of inflammation and pain. The thought was sobering, but it also fueled his resolve to change. In the weeks that followed, Thomas made a conscious effort to reduce his intake of fried foods. Instead of grabbing fried chicken from the local diner, he and Mary began baking or grilling chicken with herbs and lemon, flavors that surprised him with their freshness and depth. Sweet potato fries replaced regular fries, baked to crisp perfection in the oven. At first, the change felt strange and less satisfying, but as his joints gradually eased, Thomas found joy in discovering new tastes and cooking methods. His family noticed the difference too. Mary shared how their grandchildren complimented the new dishes, eager for the colorful vegetables and home-baked treats. Thomas found himself more energetic during their weekend visits, able to kneel down and play without wincing. These moments of connection and movement became precious rewards, reminding him why the changes were worth it. Yet the journey wasn't without challenges. Temptations were everywhere: social gatherings, TV ads, and old habits, pulling him back toward fried favorites. One evening, Thomas gave in and ordered fried fish at a family dinner. The next morning, the pain returned with a vengeance, making it difficult to get out of bed. The setback was painful, not only physically, but emotionally. He felt frustration and disappointment, but also a renewed determination to stay on track. Thomas realized that his battle wasn't about perfection, but progress. He began to approach his diet with compassion, allowing occasional treats without guilt, but always mindful of the consequences. His relationship with food transformed from one of mindless indulgence to thoughtful nourishment. Alongside his dietary changes, Thomas also began to explore the broader impact of fried foods on his health. He learned about acrylamide, a chemical formed during frying, which research linked to increased inflammation and oxidative stress. This knowledge helped him to understand that fried foods not only worsened his arthritis symptoms, but could also affect his overall well-being. With Dr. Nguyen's guidance, Thomas explored healthier fats and oils to use in cooking. Olive oil, avocado oil, and coconut oil became staples in his kitchen. These oils, rich in antioxidants and anti-inflammatory properties, helped protect his joints rather than harm them. Cooking became a mindful practice, a daily ritual of care rather than a rushed necessity. Thomas also discovered that eating more whole, minimally processed foods helped his body heal. Fresh fruits, leafy greens, nuts, and fish rich in omega-3 fatty acids became allies in his fight against inflammation. The flavors and colors of these foods lifted his spirits, creating a positive feedback loop of health and happiness. One afternoon, while preparing a meal, Thomas looked out at his garden and reflected on how far he had come. The journey wasn't just about avoiding fried foods, it was about reclaiming control, finding joy in simple pleasures, and nurturing his body with kindness. The pain hadn't disappeared completely, but it no longer ruled his life. He had learned to listen to his body, respect its limits, and celebrate its resilience. Thomas's story is a reminder that the foods we choose daily have profound effects on our health, especially as we age. Fried foods, though tempting and familiar, can be powerful triggers of inflammation that worsen arthritis pain. But with awareness, support, and gradual changes, it's possible to reduce their impact and regain a better quality of life. As Thomas continues his journey, he invites others to join him to discover the hidden dangers on their plates and the healing power of mindful eating. Together, they can transform not just their diets, but their futures, moving toward days filled with comfort, connection, and strength. Thomas never imagined that something as sweet and seemingly innocent as sugar could be quietly fueling the pain that gripped his joints every morning. For most of his life, a sugary treat after dinner was a small indulgence, a piece of cake, a cookie, or sometimes a spoonful of honey in his tea. But after his arthritis diagnosis, Thomas started to wonder if these sweet moments were doing more harm than good. One afternoon, while reading a pamphlet at the clinic, Thomas came across information explaining how refined sugar triggers inflammation in the body. It described how sugar causes blood sugar levels to spike rapidly, prompting the immune system to release chemicals that inflame the joints. Suddenly, the fatigue and swelling he experienced after indulging in sweets made perfect sense. He realized that each sugary bite might be adding fuel to the fire raging inside his knees and fingers. Determined to learn more, Thomas discussed his concerns with Dr. Nguyen during his next visit. She explained gently, "Sugar is one of the biggest hidden culprits in chronic inflammation. When you consume too much, it not only affects your blood sugar, but also leads to the production of harmful compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGs, which damage your joints over time." Thomas listened intently, absorbing every word. The thought that his sweet tooth might be sabotaging his health was unsettling, yet it gave him clarity. Thomas decided to take action, beginning by reducing the obvious sources of sugar in his diet. He stopped drinking sodas and fruit juices loaded with added sugars, switching instead to water and herbal teas. Breakfast, once a sugary cereal, was replaced with oatmeal topped with fresh berries. The transition was difficult at first. He craved the familiar sweetness, but with Mary's encouragement, he found satisfaction in the natural flavors of whole foods. One evening, Thomas was tempted by a plate of pastries his daughter had brought for a family gathering. The rich smell and delicate texture stirred memories of celebrations past. He took a small piece, allowing himself the moment, but the next morning, the stiffness and ache in his joints were worse. The experience was a stark reminder of how powerful sugar's effects could be. Despite setbacks, Thomas's determination never wavered. He discovered natural sweeteners like stevia and small amounts of honey that could satisfy his cravings without overwhelming his body. He also started including more fiber and protein in his meals, which helped stabilize his blood sugar and reduce inflammation. As the weeks passed, Thomas noticed subtle but meaningful changes. His energy improved, the swelling in his fingers decreased, and he could grip his gardening tools more comfortably. These small victories reinforced his commitment to a low-sugar lifestyle, one that supported his joint health and overall well-being. Beyond diet, Thomas learned that sugar also disrupted the balance of good bacteria in the gut, which played a crucial role in regulating the immune system and inflammation. Understanding this connection deepened his appreciation for whole, unprocessed foods and the importance of nurturing his digestive health. Thomas's journey with sugar was more than just avoiding sweets. It was about reclaiming control over a part of his life that had felt unpredictable and painful. Each conscious choice was an act of self-love, a step toward reducing the invisible fire consuming his joints. With Mary's help, Thomas found joy in cooking meals rich in anti-inflammatory ingredients, leafy greens, nuts, seeds, and fatty fish. Creating dishes that were both delicious and healing, family dinners became celebrations of health, connection, and hope. Thomas often reflected on how his relationship with food had transformed. What once was a source of comfort through sugary treats had evolved into a source of strength through nourishing choices. He understood now that managing arthritis wasn't about deprivation, but about finding balance and harmony with his body's needs. His story is a testament to the hidden power of sugar and the difference mindful eating can make. By choosing to reduce refined sugar and embrace natural alternatives, Thomas was able to quiet the flames of inflammation and step into a future with less pain and more freedom. As his journey continues, Thomas remains eager to share these lessons with others facing similar struggles. Together, they can learn to identify the hidden triggers in their diets and take steps toward a life of greater comfort and vitality. Thomas sat quietly at the kitchen table, a warm cup of tea in his hands, pondering the new information he had recently uncovered. His doctor, Dr. Nguyen, had mentioned something that at first seemed trivial, but was now becoming a significant piece of his puzzle. The white bread and pasta he had enjoyed for decades might actually be contributing to his arthritis pain. For most of his life, bread and pasta had been staples of Thomas's meals, comforting, filling, and easy to prepare. He remembered Sunday dinners with his family, where pasta dishes were often the centerpiece, draped in rich sauces and sprinkled with cheese. The idea that these beloved foods could be harming his joints was difficult to accept, but as his pain persisted and sometimes worsened, Thomas knew he had to take the advice seriously. Dr. Nguyen explained that white bread and pasta made from refined flour cause rapid spikes in blood sugar. These spikes prompt the body to release inflammatory substances that can worsen joint swelling and stiffness. The refined flour lacked the fiber and nutrients found in whole grains, making it less helpful for his body's healing. Thomas realized that the quick energy boost he used to enjoy came at the cost of feeding the inflammation that tormented his joints. One weekend, Thomas decided to experiment. Instead of his usual white bread sandwich for lunch, he prepared a sandwich using whole grain bread, adding fresh vegetables and lean protein. The taste was different, more robust and earthy, but pleasant. Over the following days, he noticed that his joint pain was less severe, and the stiffness that greeted him each morning seemed to loosen slightly. This small change gave him hope. Pasta was another challenge. Thomas had always loved its comforting texture and versatility. Swapping white pasta for whole grain or alternatives like quinoa pasta was unfamiliar territory. However, he found that these substitutes kept him fuller longer and didn't trigger the same painful flare-ups. Cooking with Mary became an adventure as they explored new recipes and flavors that supported his healing. Thomas also learned about fluid retention caused by high sodium and refined carbohydrates, which could increase joint swelling. This explained why, after meals rich in white bread or salty snacks, his knees felt heavier and movement became more labored. Being mindful of these symptoms helped him make better food choices. Social occasions posed their own difficulties. At family gatherings or community events, white bread and pasta dishes were common. Thomas found himself needing to politely decline certain foods or bring his own alternatives. While sometimes awkward, these decisions became easier as he witnessed the positive effects on his health. One day, while shopping for groceries, Thomas came across a wide variety of whole grain products he hadn't noticed before. He began reading labels, choosing breads and pastas that contained real whole grains and minimal additives. This new awareness empowered him to take control over what he ate. The journey wasn't without frustration. Sometimes the taste and texture of whole grains felt unfamiliar, and Thomas missed the simplicity of his old favorites. Yet each bite of nourishing food reminded him of the freedom he was gaining from reduced pain and increased mobility. Thomas's story shows how the foods we often consider harmless staples can have hidden impacts on conditions like arthritis. By switching from refined white flour products to whole grains, he was able to calm inflammation and support his joints in healing. This change also inspired Thomas to look deeper into other aspects of his diet and lifestyle that might influence his condition. It became clear that managing arthritis was not about eliminating joy, but about rediscovering pleasure in healthier, more mindful ways. Through these gradual, sustainable changes, Thomas found a new rhythm in life, one where he could enjoy meals without fear of pain and move with greater ease. His path encourages others to examine their own diets and recognize that even small swaps can lead to meaningful improvements. As Thomas continues to learn and grow, he remains hopeful and determined. His experience teaches us that the journey to better joint health is possible with patience, awareness, and awareness, and the courage to change old habits. Thomas had always enjoyed a hearty meal centered around red meat. Growing up, family dinners often featured steak, roast beef, or sausages, foods that to him symbolized comfort, tradition, and celebration. Yet, as he navigated his arthritis journey, he began to question whether these beloved dishes were contributing to his joint pain and stiffness. During a follow-up appointment, Dr. Nguyen addressed Thomas's concerns about protein sources. She explained gently that while protein is essential for maintaining muscle and overall health, red and processed meats can sometimes worsen inflammation due to their saturated fat content and preservatives. Red meats, she said, especially when processed or cooked at high temperatures, can produce compounds that increase oxidative stress and trigger joint inflammation. Thomas reflected on his meals and remembered frequent indulgences in bacon, sausages, and grilled steaks. The sizzling sounds and smoky aromas were nostalgic, but also a reminder of the challenges he now faced. He understood that his joints might be silently suffering after these meals. Determined to find balance, Thomas began to explore alternative protein sources. He learned that fish rich in omega-3 fatty acids, such as salmon, mackerel, and sardines, possess natural anti-inflammatory properties that could help ease arthritis symptoms. Incorporating these into his diet wasn't difficult, as Mary enjoyed experimenting with new recipes that featured fresh herbs and citrus to enhance flavors. At family gatherings, Thomas would now bring a tray of baked salmon or grilled chicken, offering choices that supported his health. While some relatives were initially surprised, many embraced the variety and appreciated the delicious flavors. These social moments became opportunities to share his journey and inspire others to consider healthier habits. Thomas also explored plant-based proteins like lentils, beans, and tofu. These options were not only nutritious, but also gentle on his joints. Preparing hearty lentil stews or bean salads added color and diversity to his meals, making healthy eating enjoyable rather than restrictive. One challenge Thomas faced was adjusting cooking methods. He realized that grilling or frying meats at high heat created advanced glycation end products, AGEs, compounds that promote inflammation. Switching to gentler techniques like baking, steaming, or slow cooking helped reduce these harmful substances. Thomas enjoyed the new flavors that emerged from slow-cooked dishes, savoring the tenderness and depth. Reducing red meat consumption wasn't easy emotionally. Thomas missed the familiar textures and tastes, the ritual of a Sunday roast, and the memories tied to those meals. Yet, as his joint pain eased and mobility improved, he felt reassured that these sacrifices were meaningful. The quality of his daily life had begun to change for the better. Throughout his journey, Thomas remained mindful not to demonize food, but to find a sustainable path forward. He still enjoyed red meat occasionally, choosing fresh, minimally processed cuts and balancing portions carefully. This approach gave him flexibility and satisfaction while protecting his joints. His experience illustrates the complex relationship between diet and arthritis, how some traditional foods may unknowingly fuel inflammation, but thoughtful choices and cooking methods can make a difference. Thomas's story encourages others to explore their own diets with curiosity and compassion. With each small step, Thomas regained control over his health. His joints felt less swollen, his mornings less stiff, and his spirit lighter. The journey wasn't just about food, it was about healing, resilience, and rediscovering joy in everyday moments. As Thomas continues to learn and adapt, he looks forward to sharing more insights and embracing the foods and habits that nourish both body and soul. His path is a reminder that while aging and arthritis present challenges, they also offer opportunities for growth, connection, and renewed vitality. Thomas had always enjoyed the creamy richness of full-fat dairy, milk poured over his morning cereal, slices of cheese in his sandwiches, and yogurt as a wholesome snack. For decades, these dairy products had been comforting staples in his diet. Yet, as arthritis crept deeper into his life, Thomas began to wonder if these familiar foods might be adding to his joint troubles in ways he hadn't imagined. During one of his visits, Dr. Nguyen gently raised the topic of dairy's impact on inflammation. Full-fat dairy products can sometimes trigger immune responses in sensitive individuals, leading to increased joint pain and stiffness. she explained. Proteins like casein may provoke inflammation in some people, especially if their digestion isn't optimal. Thomas listened carefully, surprised to learn that the very foods he trusted could be contributing to his discomfort. Thomas recalled the mornings when his knees felt particularly stiff after enjoying a generous helping of cheese or a creamy latte. Though he had attributed these symptoms to the progression of arthritis, Dr. Nguyen's words shed new light on the possibility that his body was reacting to these dairy proteins. The thought was unsettling, yet it sparked a desire to experiment and find out what truly helped him feel better. With Mary's support, Thomas decided to reduce his intake of full-fat dairy products gradually. They started by switching from whole milk to almond milk in their coffee and cereals. The creamy texture was different but surprisingly pleasant. Yogurt was replaced with coconut or soy-based alternatives, and cheese was enjoyed less frequently, often substituted with nut-based spreads or fresh vegetables. In the early days of these changes, Thomas was cautious, attentive to how his body responded. After a week without his usual dairy, he noticed subtle improvements. His joints felt less swollen, and the persistent morning stiffness eased slightly. Encouraged, he continued on this path, savoring the discovery that relief was possible through diet. The journey wasn't without challenges. Dairy had long been a comfort food tied to memories of family meals and simple pleasures. Thomas missed the familiar flavors and textures, and sometimes he worried about missing out on important nutrients like calcium. Dr. Nguyen reassured him, emphasizing that calcium and vitamin D could be obtained from non-dairy sources, such as leafy greens, fortified plant milks, chia seeds, and tofu. Thomas began exploring these alternatives, adding spinach to his salads, sprinkling chia seeds over his breakfast bowls, and incorporating tofu into his stir-fries. These new foods not only supported his bone health, but also introduced fresh tastes and textures to his meals, keeping his diet interesting and satisfying. Mary became an invaluable partner in this transition. Together, they experimented with recipes that minimized inflammation and maximized flavor: creamy avocado dressings instead of cheese-based sauces, smoothies rich with berries and plant-based milk, and hearty vegetable soups. Their kitchen became a place of creativity and healing. Thomas also became more aware of the dairy products that might contain synthetic hormones or antibiotic residues, which could interfere with immune balance and exacerbate inflammation. Whenever possible, they chose organic or minimally processed options, further reducing the risk of unwanted reactions. Over time, the reduction of full-fat dairy led to notable improvements in Thomas's arthritis symptoms. His joints felt less swollen, movement became smoother, and his overall energy improved. More importantly, these changes gave him a sense of control over his health, a feeling that had been elusive since his diagnosis. His story highlights the complex role that dairy can play in arthritis. While not everyone with arthritis will react to dairy the same way, Thomas's experience illustrates the importance of paying attention to how certain foods affect one's body. By listening carefully and making thoughtful choices, it's possible to reduce inflammation and support joint health. Thomas's evolving relationship with food reflects a deeper journey towards self-awareness and healing. He learned that managing arthritis isn't about deprivation, but about discovering what nurtures and supports his unique body. This mindset empowered him to embrace change with openness and optimism. As he continues to explore his path, Thomas remains grateful for the guidance of his healthcare team and the support of his family. Together, they navigate the challenges of arthritis, finding strength in knowledge, love, and the simple joys of nourishing meals shared around the table. His story serves as an inspiration for others facing similar struggles, reminding us that even familiar foods may hold surprises and that through patience and perseverance, it's possible to reclaim comfort and vitality. Thomas had never been a heavy drinker, but he enjoyed a glass of wine with dinner or an occasional beer during social gatherings. These moments were part of his routine, small pleasures that added a sense of celebration and relaxation to his days. However, as his arthritis progressed, Thomas began to wonder if even moderate alcohol consumption could be affecting his joint health more than he realized. During a routine appointment, Dr. Nguyen brought up the subject delicately. Alcohol can be tricky for people with arthritis, she explained. While some studies suggest that moderate consumption, like a glass of red wine, may have certain benefits, overall, alcohol tends to promote inflammation and can interfere with how your body processes medications and nutrients important for joint health. Thomas listened intently. He hadn't connected his occasional drinks with the stiffness and swelling that seemed to worsen after social events. Dr. Nguyen also mentioned that alcohol puts strain on the liver, which plays a key role in filtering toxins and regulating inflammation. When liver function is impaired, the body struggles to keep inflammation in check, making joint pain worse. The advice felt both surprising and unsettling. Thomas valued his social time and the comfort those drinks brought, but he also wanted to do everything possible to ease his pain and maintain his mobility. After talking it over with Mary, he decided to take a cautious approach, reducing his alcohol intake gradually and observing how his body responded. At first, Thomas substituted his usual glass of wine with herbal teas or sparkling water flavored with lemon. He found that these alternatives, while different, were refreshing and satisfying. Over the following weeks, he noticed that his joint swelling decreased slightly and he woke up feeling less stiff. These changes, though subtle, encouraged him to continue minimizing alcohol. Social situations remained a challenge. At family dinners or community events, alcohol was often present, and declining drinks required polite explanations. Thomas found that being open about his health journey and the reasons behind his choices often invited understanding and support from friends and relatives. One memorable evening during a birthday celebration, Thomas chose to have just a small sip of wine rather than a full glass. The next day, he noticed his joints felt tender and swollen, a stark reminder of alcohol's impact. This experience strengthened his resolve to prioritize his health over temporary indulgence. Mary became a steadfast ally, preparing delicious non-alcoholic beverages infused with fresh fruits and herbs that felt festive and satisfying. Together, they discovered new ways to enjoy celebrations without compromising Thomas's well-being. Thomas also learned about alcohol's dehydrating effects, which reduced the natural cushioning between joints, increasing friction and pain. Staying hydrated became a priority, and he made a habit of drinking plenty of water throughout the day. Another concern was how alcohol interfered with the absorption of nutrients vital for bone and joint health, such as calcium, magnesium, and vitamin D. Recognizing this, Thomas began focusing on nutrient-rich foods and supplements, supporting his body's repair and resilience. With time, Thomas realized that cutting back on alcohol improved not just his arthritis symptoms, but also his overall energy and mental clarity. He felt more present in his daily activities, more engaged with his family, and more hopeful about the future. His story illustrates the complex relationship between alcohol and arthritis, a balance between enjoyment and health. While moderation is key, understanding alcohol's potential to fuel inflammation and disrupt healing empowers individuals to make informed choices. Thomas's journey is a testament to the power of mindfulness and adaptation. By listening to his body and making conscious decisions, he reclaimed control over his health and discovered new ways to celebrate life's moments with joy and care. As he continues to navigate this path, Thomas encourages others to reflect on their own habits and consider the impact of alcohol on their joint health. Together, they can embrace a lifestyle that supports healing, connection, and vitality. Thomas had always believed that cooking was a simple, everyday task, one that required little thought beyond taste and convenience. Over the years, his kitchen was stocked with the usual vegetable oils, soybean, corn, and canola oils. These were inexpensive, readily available, and what his family had used for generations. However, as Thomas delved deeper into managing his arthritis, he began to question if these familiar oils were secretly doing more harm than good. During a visit with Dr. Nguyen, she gently introduced the subject of cooking oils and their impact on inflammation. Many common vegetable oils are high in omega-6 fatty acids, she explained. While omega-6 fats are essential in small amounts, modern diets tend to contain excessive levels, which can throw off the balance with omega-3 fats and promote inflammation. Thomas listened, intrigued but also a bit concerned. He had never considered how the oils he cooked with could influence his joint pain. Dr. Nguyen went on to describe how these refined oils are processed, exposed to high heat and chemicals that strip away nutrients and create free radicals. These free radicals are harmful molecules that can damage cells, including the cartilage in joints. Over time, this damage can worsen arthritis symptoms, leading to more stiffness, swelling, and pain. Thomas pictured the invisible assault on his joints each time he used these oils, and a new sense of urgency settled in. Determined to make a change, Thomas and Mary began researching healthier alternatives. They discovered that oils like extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, and coconut oil were known for their anti-inflammatory properties and antioxidant content. These oils not only added flavor but also supported joint health rather than undermining it. Their first experiment was swapping out soybean oil for extra virgin olive oil when preparing salads and sautés. The rich, fruity notes of olive oil were a pleasant surprise to Thomas's palate, and Mary's enthusiasm for cooking blossomed as she explored Mediterranean-inspired recipes rich in vegetables, herbs, and healthy fats. Thomas noticed that meals cooked with these oils felt lighter and more satisfying. More importantly, after a few weeks, he experienced a noticeable decrease in joint stiffness and discomfort. Walking in the morning became easier, and the swelling in his fingers lessened. These improvements motivated him to continue exploring and learning. The couple also experimented with avocado oil for high-heat cooking due to its high smoke point and mild flavor. Baking and roasting with coconut oil added a subtle sweetness and richness to their dishes, creating meals that were both delicious and nourishing. Thomas began to see cooking not just as a chore, but as a creative act of healing. Shopping habits changed too. Thomas started reading labels more carefully, avoiding processed foods and fast foods that often contain these refined oils. He was surprised to learn how prevalent these oils were in packaged snacks and restaurant meals. This awareness helped him make more informed choices and avoid hidden sources of inflammation. Despite these positive changes, Thomas encountered challenges. Family gatherings and social events often featured foods cooked with traditional oils. Politely declining or asking about ingredients sometimes felt awkward, but Thomas found that most people appreciated his openness about his health journey. His story underscores the hidden dangers lurking in everyday cooking oils and the importance of balance between omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. By replacing harmful oils with healthier options, Thomas was able to support his body's natural defenses against inflammation and protect his joints from further damage. This transformation went beyond diet. It was part of a larger shift in Thomas's approach to health and self-care. He embraced mindfulness in all aspects of life, from the food he prepared to the way he moved his body and managed stress. Each choice became an opportunity to nurture healing and resilience. Thomas's journey teaches us that small changes, like switching cooking oils, can have a powerful impact on joint health. It invites us to look more closely at the ingredients we often overlook and consider their long-term effects on our well-being. As Thomas continues to walk this path, he remains hopeful and curious, eager to share his discoveries and inspire others to make choices that honor their bodies and enhance their quality of life. Together, they can build a future where arthritis is managed with wisdom, care, and compassion. Thomas never imagined that a simple snack like microwave popcorn could play a role in the pain that plagued his joints. Popcorn was a treat he enjoyed during quiet evenings watching old movies with Mary, a light and familiar comfort that felt harmless amidst his dietary changes. However, as his arthritis journey unfolded, Thomas began to learn that not all snacks were created equal, and some seemingly innocent foods could carry hidden dangers. During a conversation with Dr. Nguyen, she brought up microwave popcorn as an example of a processed food often overlooked by those managing inflammatory conditions. Microwave popcorn often contains hydrogenated oils and trans fats, which are known to trigger inflammation, she explained gently. Additionally, many brands include artificial additives and preservatives that can irritate sensitive bodies, especially in people with arthritis. Thomas was surprised to hear this. He had always thought of popcorn as a relatively healthy snack, especially compared to chips or candy, but the information made him reconsider. He recalled times when, after indulging in a bag of microwave popcorn, his fingers and knees ached more than usual, and the stiffness lasted longer into the day. Dr. Nguyen also mentioned the chemical lining inside many microwave popcorn bags, which contains perfluorooctanoic acid, PFOA, a substance linked to inflammation and immune disruption. While these chemicals might not cause immediate harm, long-term exposure could contribute to worsening joint symptoms. The realization that even the packaging could be a culprit was eye-opening for Thomas. Determined to protect his joints, Thomas decided to stop buying microwave popcorn. Instead, he and Mary started making popcorn the old-fashioned way, popping kernels on the stovetop with small amounts of coconut or olive oil. This homemade version was free from artificial chemicals and trans fats, and they added natural seasonings like turmeric and garlic powder, both known for their anti-inflammatory properties. The change brought more than just a healthier snack option. It became a ritual, a way for Thomas and Mary to connect and take control of their health together. They discovered that homemade popcorn was delicious, satisfying, and free from the worries that accompanied processed snacks. Thomas also began to replace processed snacks with nuts and seeds like almonds, walnuts, and pumpkin seeds, foods rich in healthy fats and antioxidants that supported his joint health. These options not only helped reduce inflammation, but also provided sustained energy throughout the day, a welcome relief from the fatigue that often accompanied his arthritis flare-ups. Social occasions, however, presented a challenge. Popcorn was a popular snack at gatherings and movie nights with friends and family. Thomas found himself explaining his dietary changes and encouraging others to try healthier alternatives. While some were curious and supportive, others were skeptical, viewing his choices as extreme. Through patience and gentle conversation, Thomas helped his loved ones understand the connection between diet and inflammation. He shared how small changes like avoiding microwave popcorn had made a meaningful difference in his pain and mobility. These discussions deepened his relationships and fostered a community of support. Thomas's experience with microwave popcorn highlights the importance of awareness when it comes to processed foods. What seems like a simple, convenient snack can hide ingredients that exacerbate inflammation and joint damage. By making informed choices and seeking natural alternatives, individuals with arthritis can reduce their symptoms and improve their quality of life. This chapter in Thomas's journey also reinforced a larger lesson. Healing is often about the details. Paying attention to the foods we eat, the products we use, and the habits we form can reveal surprising factors that influence our health. It's a journey of discovery, patience, and empowerment. As Thomas continues to explore and refine his diet, he remains motivated by the improvements he's experienced and the hope of maintaining his independence and joy. His story invites others to look beyond the obvious and consider the hidden impacts of everyday choices. Together, with knowledge and support, people living with arthritis can take steps toward relief, resilience, and renewed vitality. Thomas's path is a beacon of that possibility, proof that even small changes can lead to big transformations. Thomas had long enjoyed the occasional soda, a fizzy treat that brought back memories of family barbecues, celebrations, and simple pleasures. The sweet bubbles and familiar flavors had been a comforting constant in his life. Yet, as arthritis tightened its grip, Thomas began to question whether these sugary drinks were more foe than friend. During a routine appointment, Dr. Nguyen brought up the topic delicately. Sodas and industrialized fruit juices are among the worst drinks for people with arthritis, she explained. They are loaded with added sugars and artificial sweeteners that can trigger inflammation and worsen joint pain. Thomas felt a pang of surprise. He hadn't connected his favorite drinks with the stiffness and swelling he often experienced. Dr. Nguyen went on to describe how sugar causes rapid spikes in blood glucose, leading to the release of inflammatory cytokines, proteins that increase joint swelling and discomfort. She also mentioned phosphoric acid, an ingredient common in sodas, which can interfere with calcium absorption, weakening bones and cartilage. The caffeine content, too, contributes to dehydration, reducing the cushioning around joints and increasing friction. Armed with this new understanding, Thomas decided to cut sodas from his diet. The transition was not easy. The craving for the sweet fizz was strong, especially during warm afternoons when a cold drink seemed like the perfect refreshment. But Thomas was determined, reminding himself of the pain and limitations that came with his arthritis. Mary became a vital source of support, experimenting with homemade sparkling waters infused with fresh fruits and herbs. These drinks offered the fizz he missed without the harmful additives. Thomas found that these alternatives satisfied his palate and refreshed his body, making the switch more manageable. Over the following weeks, Thomas noticed significant improvements. The joint swelling diminished, and mornings greeted him with less stiffness. He felt more energetic and less fatigued, a change that uplifted his spirit and motivated him to continue his new habits. Thomas also became wary of healthy fruit juices sold in stores. Though they seemed natural, many were high in refined sugars, preservatives, and artificial dyes that triggered inflammatory responses similar to sodas. Whenever possible, he chose to eat whole fruits instead, benefiting from their fiber content, which helped stabilize blood sugar and reduce inflammation. Social events, once filled with clinking soda cans, now featured Thomas sipping water or herbal tea. He explained his reasons openly, inspiring some friends and family to reconsider their own beverage choices. These conversations deepened his connections and fostered a shared commitment to health. The change in beverage habits also encouraged Thomas to reflect on other aspects of his diet. He realized that managing arthritis was a holistic process, involving mindful choices across all meals and snacks. Every sip and bite mattered in the quest for reduced pain and improved mobility. Through trial and error, Thomas learned to listen to his body's signals. When he indulged in sugary drinks, discomfort followed. When he chose nourishing alternatives, relief was near. This feedback loop became a guide, empowering him to make decisions aligned with his well-being. His journey with sodas and sugary drinks is a testament to the hidden challenges faced by those managing arthritis. What seems like a harmless indulgence can have profound impacts on inflammation and joint health. Awareness and intentionality are key to breaking free from these sweet traps. As Thomas continues forward, he remains hopeful and engaged, eager to share his experiences and support others navigating similar struggles. Together, they can embrace lifestyles that honor their bodies and foster healing. Thomas's story reminds us that healing is possible, even in small sips and simple choices. By understanding the impact of what we drink, we can protect our joints and reclaim the joys of movement and life. Thomas never imagined that the simple act of reaching for a salty snack could be contributing to the stiffness and swelling that made his arthritis worse. Chips, pretzels, salted nuts, these had long been his go-to comfort foods during quiet evenings and casual gatherings. Yet as he learned more about his condition, he began to question the impact these snacks were having on his joints. One afternoon, while researching ways to reduce inflammation, Thomas came across information explaining how high sodium intake can lead to dehydration and fluid retention. This combination creates more friction within the joints and increases swelling, making movement painful and difficult. The realization was eye-opening. His beloved salty snacks might be adding unseen weight to his already burdened joints. During a checkup, Dr. Nguyen confirmed these concerns. She explained that excessive salt causes the body to hold onto water, which can increase pressure around inflamed joints. This not only worsens swelling, but also decreases joint flexibility, contributing to the stiffness Thomas felt every morning. She encouraged him to monitor his salt intake and seek alternatives that could satisfy his cravings without compromising his health. Thomas decided to take action. He began reading food labels more carefully, surprised by the high sodium content hidden in many processed snacks, canned soups, and even bread. The knowledge empowered him to make more informed choices, gradually replacing salty snacks with healthier options. With Mary's help, Thomas explored alternatives like unsalted nuts, fresh vegetables with hummus, and homemade kale chips seasoned with herbs instead of salt. These new snacks were flavorful and satisfying, and over time, Thomas noticed less joint swelling and improved mobility. The change didn't happen overnight, but the gradual progress kept him motivated. Social occasions posed challenges. At parties and family gatherings, salty snacks were abundant and tempting. Thomas learned to navigate these situations by bringing his own healthy snacks and politely declining offerings that might harm his joints. These choices sometimes felt awkward, but his loved ones respected his commitment and often joined him in making healthier decisions. Thomas also found that staying well hydrated helped combat the effects of sodium. Drinking plenty of water throughout the day kept his joints lubricated and eased the sensation of stiffness. He began carrying a water bottle everywhere, making hydration a central part of his routine. This new awareness extended beyond just snacks. Thomas became mindful of cooking methods and ingredients, reducing added salt in meals and experimenting with spices and citrus to enhance flavors naturally. These small adjustments enriched his culinary experience and supported his joint health. Thomas's journey with salty snacks highlights the hidden dangers of excess sodium and its role in inflammation and joint pain. By making conscious choices and seeking alternatives, he was able to reduce swelling and regain some of the flexibility he had lost. His story illustrates a broader truth. Managing arthritis requires attention to the details of daily life, from the foods we eat to the habits we form. Each mindful choice builds toward healing and improved quality of life. As Thomas continues forward, he remains hopeful and determined, eager to share his insights with others. Together, they can overcome the challenges of arthritis and embrace lifestyles that promote comfort, strength, and joy. Thomas's experience reminds us that even the smallest changes, like choosing unsalted snacks, can make a significant difference. Healing begins with awareness, compassion, and the courage to choose differently. Thomas sat quietly one morning, reflecting on the long journey he had traveled since his arthritis diagnosis. The road had been filled with discoveries, challenges, and gradual victories. One of the most powerful lessons he learned was that managing arthritis wasn't just about avoiding certain foods or habits. It was about replacing those bad habits with healthier, arthritis-friendly choices that nourished his body and spirit. For years, Thomas's routine had included many habits that unknowingly worsened his joint pain, reaching for fried foods, sugary snacks, processed meats, and those familiar comfort foods that once brought joy but now brought discomfort. But instead of focusing on what he had to give up, Thomas began shifting his mindset toward what he could embrace and enjoy. With Mary's help, Thomas started to build a new pantry and fridge, stocked with anti-inflammatory foods, fresh vegetables bursting with color, fruits rich in antioxidants, whole grains like quinoa and brown rice, and lean proteins such as fish and legumes. This transformation wasn't just nutritional, it was emotional and empowering. One of Thomas's favorite new rituals became preparing meals with vibrant vegetables and herbs, savoring the smells and colors as much as the flavors. Cooking turned into a joyful practice, a way to connect with his health and family. He found himself looking forward to dinners rather than dreading the pain they sometimes brought. Exercise, too, became an essential part of his new lifestyle. Guided by his physical therapist, Thomas incorporated gentle stretching and low-impact activities like walking and swimming. These movements helped strengthen the muscles around his joints, improve flexibility, and lifted his mood. The synergy between better food and physical activity created a positive feedback loop that reinforced his progress. Thomas also became more mindful of his mental health, understanding that stress and negative emotions could amplify inflammation and pain. Practices like meditation, deep breathing, and spending time in nature became valuable tools. He He found peace in quiet mornings tending his garden, feeling the earth beneath his fingers and the sun on his face. The transition wasn't without setbacks. Old habits sometimes crept back, especially during stressful times or social occasions. Yet Thomas approached these moments with kindness toward himself, recognizing that change is a journey, not a destination. He learned to celebrate small victories and forgive occasional slips. Support from family and friends was vital. Mary's unwavering encouragement, shared meals, and companionship made all the difference. Friends who understood his goals became allies, offering understanding and sometimes even joining him in making healthier choices. Thomas's story demonstrates that replacing harmful habits with positive ones can transform not only physical health, but also quality of life. The new habits didn't feel like sacrifices, but rather gifts, opportunities to nurture his body and reconnect with life's simple pleasures. His experience offers hope to others facing arthritis. By focusing on what to add rather than just what to remove, it's possible to create a sustainable, enjoyable lifestyle that supports joint health and overall well-being. As Thomas continues on this path, he remains committed to learning, growing, and sharing his journey. Together with his loved ones and healthcare team, he embraces a future filled with possibility and resilience. Thomas's journey reminds us all that healing begins with small, intentional steps, and that every positive choice builds toward a healthier, more vibrant life. Thomas had come a long way from the days when arthritis pain ruled his mornings and limited his every move. Through patience, learning, and small changes, he discovered that managing his condition wasn't just about what he ate, but also how he prepared his food. The kitchen, once just a place for quick meals, had transformed into a sanctuary where healing began with simple, thoughtful cooking. One afternoon, Thomas and Mary sat together with Dr. Nguyen, discussing ways to reduce inflammation through everyday habits. The doctor emphasized that cooking methods could either worsen or alleviate arthritis symptoms. High heat, frying, and charring foods create harmful compounds that can aggravate inflammation, she explained gently. Choosing gentler methods like baking, steaming, or slow cooking helps protect your joints. And Thomas reflected on his old habits, the deep frying, quick pan frying, and grilling over open flames that he had enjoyed for years. While these methods brought flavor and satisfaction, they also produced toxins that inflamed his joints and slowed healing. The shift to gentler cooking wasn't just healthier, it was a new way to respect his body. With renewed determination, Thomas and Mary began experimenting in the kitchen. Baking vegetables with olive oil and herbs replaced frying, turning simple ingredients into flavorful dishes. Steaming fish and leafy greens preserved nutrients and minimized harmful byproducts. Slow cookers became a favorite tool, allowing flavors to develop over hours while maintaining a gentle cooking process. One of Thomas's favorite discoveries was the versatility of herbs and spices. Turmeric, ginger, garlic, and rosemary not only enhanced taste, but also offered natural anti-inflammatory benefits. Adding these to meals became a delicious ritual, a way to nourish both body and soul. Thomas also learned to avoid processed sauces and prepackaged marinades, which often contained sugars, unhealthy fats, and additives that could trigger inflammation. Instead, he crafted homemade dressings and sauces using fresh ingredients, lemon juice, and quality oils. These simple swaps made meals fresher and more satisfying. Mary's creativity in the kitchen blossomed as they explored new recipes together. They discovered dishes from Mediterranean and Asian cuisines known for their joint-friendly ingredients and gentle cooking methods. Preparing these meals brought joy and variety to their table, keeping their diet both nutritious and exciting. Another tip Thomas found helpful was to limit salt and focus on natural flavor enhancers like citrus zest, vinegar, and fresh herbs. Reducing sodium intake helped decrease joint swelling, while the bright flavors made meals enjoyable without added salt. Thomas also paid attention to portion sizes and meal timing. Eating smaller, balanced meals throughout the day helped stabilize blood sugar levels and reduce inflammation. This approach supported steady energy and minimized flare-ups, making his days more comfortable. As Thomas embraced these cooking tips, he noticed improvements not only in his arthritis symptoms but also in his overall well-being. Mealtimes became moments of mindfulness, gratitude, and connection, strengthening his resolve to maintain these habits long-term. The kitchen transformed from a source of pain triggers to a place of healing and creativity. Thomas found empowerment in the knowledge that every meal prepared with care was a step toward easing his joint pain and improving his quality of life. His journey offers valuable lessons for others living with arthritis. Simple changes in cooking methods can have profound effects, reducing inflammation and supporting the body's natural repair processes. With a little experimentation and openness, anyone can make their kitchen a healing space. As Thomas continues on his path, he remains inspired by the positive changes he's experienced and eager to share his discoveries. Together with Mary and his healthcare team, he looks forward to a future filled with flavorful meals, improved mobility, and renewed joy. Thomas's story reminds us all that healing often begins with the simplest actions: turning up the oven instead of the fryer, adding a pinch of turmeric, or slow cooking a stew with love. These small shifts can create lasting comfort and vitality, one delicious meal at a time. Thomas sat by the window, watching the gentle sway of the trees in his garden. It had been months since his diagnosis of arthritis, and though the journey was far from over, he felt a deep sense of accomplishment and hope. He had learned that managing arthritis wasn't about drastic, impossible changes, but rather about small, consistent steps that cumulatively brought great relief. In the beginning, Thomas was overwhelmed by the barrage of information, foods to avoid, cooking methods to change, new habits to form. But over time, with Mary's support and guidance from Dr. Nguyen, he realized that lasting change was built on tiny adjustments, one meal at a time, one choice at a time. One of the first and most impactful changes was simply reducing the amount of fried foods in his diet. By swapping fries and fried chicken for baked and grilled alternatives, Thomas noticed less swelling and pain in his joints. This change alone gave him a new sense of freedom, simple to implement, yet powerful in effect. Cutting back on sugary drinks and sweets was another pivotal step. Instead of sodas and candies, Thomas found delight in fresh fruits and naturally sweet herbal teas. These swaps helped stabilize his blood sugar and reduce the internal inflammation that had contributed so heavily to his discomfort. Thomas also embraced whole grains over refined white breads and pastas. The fiber and nutrients in these alternatives helped control blood sugar spikes and kept his digestive system healthy, a key factor he hadn't initially considered. Meals that once left him feeling sluggish now energized him. Reducing red and processed meats while incorporating more fish, legumes, and plant-based proteins became a natural progression. These choices eased his inflammation and provided the nutrients needed for joint repair and muscle strength. Mindful cooking methods, favoring baking, steaming, and slow cooking, protected his joints from harmful compounds produced by high-heat frying and grilling. Using anti-inflammatory herbs and spices like turmeric, ginger, and garlic added flavor and healing benefits to his meals. Throughout all these changes, Thomas remained gentle with himself. He understood that perfection was not the goal, progress was. Occasional indulgences no longer triggered guilt, but served as reminders of the journey he was on. Each positive choice reinforced his confidence and motivation. The cumulative effect of these small diet shifts was remarkable. Thomas found mornings less stiff and painful, afternoons more energetic, and evenings more restful. Tasks that once seemed daunting, climbing stairs, gardening, playing with grandchildren, became manageable again. His quality of life improved steadily, a testament to the power of consistent, informed choices. Thomas's story offers hope to anyone struggling with arthritis. It shows that while the condition can be challenging, it is possible to take control through diet and lifestyle. Small changes, thoughtfully applied, can yield big rewards in pain reduction and mobility. As Thomas continues forward, he remains committed to nurturing his body with nourishing foods and mindful habits. He shares his journey openly, encouraging others to explore their own paths to relief. Through community, education, and support, he believes a future of greater comfort and vitality is within reach for many. In the end, Thomas understands that arthritis is a part of his life, but it does not define it. By embracing small, sustainable changes, he has reclaimed his independence and joy. His story reminds us all that healing is a journey of many steps, each one meaningful, each one a victory. Thomas's journey through arthritis began with uncertainty and pain, but step by step he transformed his life by making mindful, small changes. From recognizing the hidden dangers in everyday foods like fried snacks, sugary drinks, and refined grains to embracing healthier alternatives and cooking methods, Thomas gradually reclaimed control over his body. Alongside dietary shifts, he nurtured his spirit with gentle exercise, stress management, and the loving support of his wife, Mary. Each choice brought him closer to relief from stiffness and swelling, renewing his energy and restoring his independence. What started as a battle against limitation became a hopeful path of healing and empowerment. Thomas's story is a powerful reminder that age and illness do not have to define the quality of your life. With patience, courage, and the willingness to listen to your body, you can rewrite your health story and regain the joy of movement and freedom. If you're watching this today, know that the power to change lies within you. Every small step you take can spark a transformation that brings you closer to the life you deserve.